Hello everyone and welcome to Race 1 in Round 3 of the Tom Hanks Racing Series Season 4. Today we're racing at the Nürburgring GP Sprint Circuit, which is the shortened version of the Nürburgring GP circuit. This track has some long straights and fast portions, but it also has some very technical bits as well. And so I think this is an excellent track to test all aspects of the cars and will really expose both the strengths and weaknesses of these individual cars. As for the format, today we're going head to head with the 8 remaining cars, meaning we're gonna race 8 versus 7th, 6th versus 5th, 4th versus 3rd, and 2nd versus 4th in terms of the overall standings. You will see the lower placed car in terms of overall standing on the left and the higher placed car on the right. You will see the target time to beat on the bottom near the center, and you will see the finishing times of the two head-to-head cars on the top. The one that's faster is going to be green, the one that's slower is going to be red. With that out of the way, enjoy the rest of the lap, and then we'll get into the first head-to-head. Our first pairing will be the Transom Menace in 8th place overall versus the Armored Cricket in 7th place overall. And the Transom Menace is a little bit faster on the straights, we've seen that in previous races, but on the braking for the first corner, for the most part, things will even out. The Armored Cricket has shown to be faster in the slower speed corners throughout the season before, but the sweeping corners like this one here is usually something where the Transom Menace has done well. They crossed the first checkpoint with the Transom slightly in the lead. Things are pretty much neck and neck through this first part of the chicane here. This this right-hand corner, you can really accelerate out of that hard, and both of those cars are doing this. The braking point, and they're pretty much neck and neck there. Very close together through this second checkpoint as well, coming out to a short straight, and then braking for this left-hander here. Again, things very even, the armor a little bit wide maybe, and then through this long sweeping right-hander the Transom is going to take a small advantage, crossing that checkpoint first onto the fast bit with a flat-out right-hand corner. The Transom really flying, and under braking the armor is braking much later, because it has shown to have much better brakes than the Transom in previous races, and now they're neck and neck again. Coming into this final corner, both look pretty much even here, both look poised for a pretty good lap, and at the end of the day, the Transom wins by just under a tenth of a second. On to our next pairing, the THRS on the left versus the Scarab Flare on the right. The Scarab Flare is a little bit faster on the straights, we've seen that before. It's very powerful and very speedy, so it's going to arrive at this braking point at a higher speed, meaning it'll have to brake earlier, and the THRS pretty much closes the gap, both very neck and neck through this first hairpin and onto this sweeping left-hander with the THRS maybe slightly in the lead. Crossing the first checkpoint, pretty much neck and neck. Very tight lines through this first part of the chicane by both cars. The Scarab accelerating hard, going a little bit wide on exit because it's carrying so much more speed, and now it has a small advantage. Braking for this next corner earlier because it's going so fast, and then with a small advantage going into the second half of the lap, the Scarab Flare definitely has the edge at the moment. Now we get to the sweeping right-hander preceding the long straight, and the Scarab Flare is still in the lead, and it's going to extend its lead here in the fast bit because it is more powerful and typically faster on the straights. Braking late, going through the chicane, at a good speed by both cars. The Scarab is firmly in the lead, and it's looking like it's gonna bring home the victory through this final corner and through the final straight. And indeed, the Scarab Flare wins by almost a second. On to our next head-to-head, the THRS versus the ISN Soul. Both have been consistently excellent over the course of the season. Minos maybe a little bit faster on the straights, ISN a little bit sharper front end, better turning response, but both have been very well rounded and both are pretty much neck and neck here throughout this first corner. So coming up to the sweeping left-hander, where for the most part the ISN should probably have the advantage early, but well, pretty much neck and neck at the first checkpoint. Then the ISN is going to close the small gap throughout the chicane. And then they're both coming out at a very good speed. Minos maybe accelerating a little bit harder because it is more powerful. Neck and neck through this right-hand corner and at the checkpoint as well. Minos with a slightly wider line, taking a little bit more speed out of that corner. But they are very close indeed, pretty much inseparable at this stage. Both coming through that right-hander at a very good speed. Minos slightly ahead, and now it's going to pull a little bit further ahead because it is more powerful. It's got a slight edge down the straights. Braking hard, coming into the chicane with the Minos slightly in the lead. But it is very, very close. Different lines through the last corner, but the Minos is now ahead and it will continue to out-accelerate the ISN and take the win over the ISN Soul. And on to our final pairing, the Mara Astery on the left versus the Centauri Hadron on the right. The Centauri has won every race so far this season, and the Mara has come second 3 out of the 4 races. Braking for the first corner, the Centauri can brake later than any other car while carrying the same speed or sometimes higher speeds, so it has a small lead already over the Mara, but the Mara has extremely impressive turn-in, and it doesn't have that turn-in oversteer that the ISN sometimes has, and the Mara is actually slightly ahead right now. But now coming through the second part of the chicane and accelerating out, the Centauri will close the small gap and take the lead. It can brake harder for this corner as well, so the Centauri will slightly make it into the checkpoint before the Mara, and now it's only building up the lead because it accelerates harder on the short straights, and then it can brake later because it's got better brakes as well. So already you can see the Centauri has a notable advantage over the Mara, and it'll continue to build that advantage here down the straights. Although the downforce will slow it down just ever so slightly on the top end. However, the braking before the chicane will make that advantage grow bigger again. Coming to the final corner, it's now pretty clear that the Centauri will win once again against the Mara, but let's look at the clock. And it'll be a 1:32.261 for the Centauri, meaning it'll win once again. Congratulations to Teacup.